Welcome to the podcast. Episode 105 is an interview with Bernadette Benson, who describes herself as a whole food, plant-based CanAussie ultra runner living in Wandiligong, Australia. But Bernadette is so much more than that. She is an amazing athlete who has led the adventure life for many years and doesn't look to be stopping anytime soon. I have followed Bernadette's adventures for years and have always found her incredibly inspiring. So I thought it best to get her on the podcast and hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what inspires her to run these incredibly and challenging races and enables her to do so well at them. If this is the first time you've heard of Bernadette, I hope you are as amazed as I am. And if you already know her, I hope this interview just adds to your knowledge of her and just, once again, amazement at what she does. If you do enjoy this episode, please go on over to Apple Podcasts to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps grow the audience and grow the show. Thanks so much for your ongoing support. I truly, truly appreciate it. Are injuries or niggles ruining your enjoyment of running and hindering your performance? Get on top of these by seeing the specialist at Health and High Performance. Utilising the latest in technology and with a wealth of experience, the team at Health and High Performance can assist you with all your running injury and performance needs. They certainly helped me get to the start and through my FKT. So to get back to enjoying your running and achieving the results you are capable of, head to healthhp.com.au/run or find them on Instagram, Health High Performance. Health and High Performance are located in Mont Albert, Melbourne, but they're also available for telehealth appointments not only Australia-wide, but also around the world. Contact them on their website to find out more. Wild Earth Australia are the online store to help you make the most of the outdoors with top quality gear at fantastic prices. Peak Endurance podcast listeners can use the discount code Peak Endurance, which is all in capitals, so I don't know if it makes a difference, to get 10% off at checkout. Head on over to wildearth.com.au to get everything you need for your next big adventure. If you are looking to extend and challenge your limits, you need to have structured, individualised training to help you get there. If you want to achieve your best, email me, Isabel, at peakendurancecoaching.com.au to get a program started. I'd love to work with you. Enjoy the podcast. I'm sure you will love this chat. Hi, Bernadette, and welcome to the Peak Endurance podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a chance to just test my memory on
yes, that's right. Because
things from
in
the
our
past.
pre-chat, I said I'm going to be talking about all your races, so you're going to have to dredge through your memory. It'll be nice maybe for you to relive all of those as well.
Yeah, hopefully, or else it might make me just decide it's time to retire.
No, never retire. We'll get into that later. Actually, I'll talk to you a bit about that. Not that I thought you were ever going to be retiring. So, first of all, can you just tell the listeners just about yourself, your athletic background, and how you got into running and ultimately ultra running?
Okay, is this the 20-word version? Is this the cocktail party version? I like to run. Yeah, so, well, I mean, you spent some time in Canada where I came from.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got my start in running was I was living in Calgary then, and I ran for I guess for fitness. I didn't start running until I was 30-ish, I guess, and that was just because it was changes in my body, and so it was time to start. I had to earn my wine and beer credits a little bit more.
Yep, that sounds familiar.
So yes, I started running, and really it was a means to an end. I ran for the calorie count, basically. It was not a love affair at all. And that went on for some years, really, until I happened to hear about trail runners, this mad bunch of people who were going out at night with headlamps in the winter, even
Yeah.
in the mountains. And running in the snow, and it's just wow. Okay, maybe I
So
got
did
to
you join
try
the Calgary
that.
Trail Runners?
So the group was Trail Trash at the time.
Okay.
My group that I got
Yeah.
involved in was called Trail Trash, and so I started in with them, and but it was only a couple of years after that. So that was around 2007, and then it was or 2006 maybe, actually, and then by 2008 I had made the move to Australia, to Perth.
May I ask
So
why you would move to Australia when you were living in Canada? And Canada is so awesome.
the Canadians and Australians have this like love affair, it seems, with each other's
Yeah.
countries. Yeah. Well, as a fairly new trail runner too, and you having been there, I think you can really appreciate now too, there's a really long shoulder season.
Mm.
And so the
Mm.
the mud bog season
Yeah.
was really long, and running through that snow that you break through, that rips the shreds the front of your shins so you're bleeding, and yeah, the mud for just months stuck to your shoes, it felt like. And I wasn't really into winter sports either, so I didn't really grow up with it, in the sense that we weren't a moneyed family, so skiing wasn't a thing. So I kind of taught myself a bit.
Yeah.
I was pretty ordinary at it.
Mm.
And so I tried some things for sure, and some snowshoeing and stuff. So yeah. Then I kind of made an excuse of deciding to do a PhD, and was looking around the world, and I had thought about Europe, but decided I would give myself, it was funny because I thought I'd give myself English, like pick an English speaking country,
Does make it
because I'm
easier.
coming on my own. Yeah. So then it was actually looked like it was going to be New Zealand. And then just with the scholarship opportunities and things, then it turned into Australia. But the real irony was in those first 2 weeks, I was just, I would listen to the radio. I remember listening to Triple J. It was like when I lived in China, it was just like, I have no idea what they just said. And I would just sit there and mimic. I still find myself doing it sometimes, just mimicking when I hear voices, and it's like, you saw, I saw that instead of I saw that. And I know people do the same with my accent. It's more than a decade on, and yeah.
You've still got a decent accent, though.
It's a mutt accent, and I can even hear that it's a mutt accent. I met a woman in Canada, actually, who was from Australia, and she'd been in Canada forever, and she had the same mutt accent as me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my family notices it. And when
Yeah.
I go back to Canada, I get in trouble for not sounding properly Canadian.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, as for how I got into ultra running, it was I was dabbling in it just when I started trail running with this mob of people, because they were always going off to races and stuff. And I thought, well, what's the point of that? We've got all this amazing terrain to run in, and it's free. What's the big deal about races? And finally decided to tag along with them to an event, and then I just got in fast. Yeah, I guess.
So what was your first ultra distance race?
The first one was in Canada, and that was the Lost Soul 50-kilometer.
Yeah.
Which I really fluked and won.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Which, yeah, I was running with girls in my group who were certainly, I know they were faster than me. They didn't sign up for the race. So it was encouraging, I guess, for me too. And I had really good support from my mates who were out there as well. And just giving me tips along the way to really help, when I would stop at an aid station and start chowing down, and they're like, eat and run kind of thing. And it's like, but I'm enjoying my sandwich here.
Yeah.
So yeah, they helped me to it. And but then I moved after that race. I moved to Australia, and I think after I moved, I might have done the 6-inch race, and there's a race there called there was the 40 miler. They really didn't have in WA, there really weren't ultras. But there was this 40 miler. I think a lot of people used it for comrades training. It was really quite flat railway trail kind of thing. And I remember doing that, and it was just, it was horrific. And basically my first 2 years, or year and a half, I just bounced off injuries. I had no idea what I was doing. It was just, I ended up in surgery. It was just a disaster of
for what? Surgery for what?
I inflamed my tib fib joint, so the lateral knee, like outside of the knee, sort of under the kneecap, I inflamed that joint so badly.
Wow.
I was running around, it started before I even moved to Australia, and all my mates, like, bless them, but they had no idea, right? They weren't physicians. I was like, should my knees hurt like this? Is running supposed to? Oh yeah. I had 3 sets of patellofemoral straps. Like, people would give me these straps. Oh, try these straps. Oh, try these straps. And take some more vitamin I, ibuprofen, and that kind of thing. And so I ran myself into just so much injury, and then I ended up needing to get that. It was just like a bursa had just developed, and it gotten so big that even with 6 weeks of rest, it wouldn't, the wall of the bursa was just so thick, and so they had to go in and scrape it all out. And that was a huge turning point for me with what I was doing, because that was the end of 2009.
Yeah.
And I was doing all the deals with the devil in my brain, if I could only run 30K with my mates, like, even if I can never race again, could I please have that? Like, all those kinds of things. Just really thinking about what was important to me, and really wanting to do it right. And I was just doing everything.
So were you just doing too many kilometers, or what was it?
So too many kilometers for myself, because I didn't, I didn't know where, like, musculoskeletal adaptation. I wouldn't even have been able to say that. You need to build a foundation before just no idea. So I would go online, and I had mates who were doing the same thing. Basically, we went online, and it's like, oh, well, you have to do back-to-back long runs. And so all of that kind of stuff, my nutrition, I kept improving my daily nutrition over time, but running nutrition, I didn't have a clue. I would come home just shattered and lay on the sofa for 2 or 3 hours, and I'd say again to my mates, is this normal? And they're like, yeah. Like, really? I'm supposed to feel this, we're supposed to feel this bad after like a training run? It doesn't seem like I'm doing it right. But so a lot of running way too much for the experience that I had. I did no strength work, because I thought just running up mountains must be making me strong. So no strength work, no, not just nothing.
So the surgery helped, I presume.
Yeah. So that was successful, just getting that big bursa cleaned out. And the surgeon was really good. My sports doc was really good. And they really read me the riot act. And I think I've always been really, really good at listening to the experts, I learned that, your mates are lovely people, but usually don't have a clue in terms of things like that. So I really learned to find good experts and listen to them. And so when they said to me, if you try to run before, basically they were saying, we're building you up, but the first 6 weeks is no running. And, but then still I'm sitting there on the floor with, I've still got the stitches in and everything, and I'm trying to do bicep curls. And then when I saw the surgeon for the 3-day follow-up or whatever, he goes, don't you think that you should maybe your healing leg might need a little bit of oxygenated blood flow instead of your bicep? Yeah, I still have a lot to learn, don't I? Yeah. So So anyway, I learned to listen to them, and it was just up and up and up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly common. I mean, I certainly injured myself when I first started too, not quite to that extent, but I think it's fairly common because you get so excited and you love running so much, and you just think, well, I love it, I'll just do more, and that's not always the right thing, is it?
Yeah, and there's of course the FOMO stuff too, and listening to other people. And I think even so much of sort of when I was getting into it too, really around that 2007, 2009, we had the Anton Krupickas and all of those kinds of, and the barefoot, and they just didn't running on chia seeds or whatever. It was just there was just all this sexy, glamorous type stuff, and people are running 200 miles a week or whatever. And we were also, as ultra runners, taking a lot of our ideas from the road running culture. So it was oh, you have to run 150K a week. And then as I started really diving into the literature and stuff too, I was like, but wait, these are say American elite road runners. They're running 150K a week in 10 hours of training, right? Because their easy run pace is a 4:30 pace or a 4:15 pace. And then they do their speed work at a 3-minute or a 3:15 pace or something. So they're getting their whole volume in 10 hours of training. And we're taking that mentality and then even bringing it into trails.
It makes it take even longer. Yeah.
It's okay, so I need 20 hours. Where's my recovery? Yeah.
So how many Ks a week do you do now?
Sometimes I do 150Ks actually a week with and with vert in there as well. But but that's been, that's been a long evolution, because certainly, back in 2009, if I ran over 80K a week, I was broken. But on 80K a week, I could win races. So then I could go to a 6-inch race or something on 80K a week or 85K a week, and I could win that race. But then it got with my adaptations, 80 to 85K a week became base. So once I was that adapted, if I just wanted to maintain, I in an off season, I'd have to run about 80K to maintain a base.
No, I totally agree. And I do believe that you really need, it's the years in your legs. It's not just everyone can go out and do 150K weeks. You've got to have all those years in the bank of the training to get ready for that.
And it's also knowing, though, that it doesn't mean that you can't win a race, or you can't excel, or you can't do well if you're not doing 150K a week. Because when I was doing 80, 85, and I remember Dave Mackey in America, he was famously known for only running 50-mile weeks all the time in training and winning races like crazy. And he was the low mileage guy. So it's I think we get really caught up in,
isn't it? It's it just depends on what your body is like.
And thinking it's taking the prescription, what shoes do you wear? I'll wear those. What nutrition do you use? I'll use that. What mileage do you run? I'll do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's just asking for trouble. Now, look, I looked at your blog, which I'll put a link to in the show notes so other people can be just as amazed as me. And I can see that you've done some amazing runs. Like starting on those sort of what you started with in Western Australia and even Lost Soul isn't a really, that's not a super hilly one or anything like that, as I recall. But
yeah, Lost Soul's insidious kind of because it's these short, sharp climbs.
But not the big climbs. But I see some of the races you've done. Like, can you tell us what led to you wanting to do such different races, really technical ones, or really mountainous, or really cold? Like, what led to such a wide variety of distances and terrains and environments?
Yeah, I do. I think everything boils down for me, everything boils down to a challenge.
Yeah.
So if I can find a personal challenge in it, then I've got my hook. So after, I mean, my first 24-hour race, that was pretty much right after my surgery. Like, I think my surgery was October 2009, and it was June 2010 I did the first 24-hour track race. And I'd met my now partner at the end of 2009, just as I'd had that surgery and I was recovering. So I met him in December, and so we were a thing then into the beginning of 2010. And then I announced I think I did a 50K race in April or something, was kind of my comeback. And then and that was a road race. And then I picked this Sri Chamoy 24-hour, and he didn't come from a running background at all. He was just like, 24 hours around a track? Are you serious? Like, what on earth could be?
He probably wishes that's the kind of races you did know, it'd be easier.
But it just somehow so intrigued me as just such a different challenge. And I still just had my Canadian citizenship, so not Australian then as well yet, but I had to look. I don't know what triggered me to even look at records online, but I had looked and found out somehow about the national records, and I thought, and I just put it in my mind. I thought I did all the maths in different ways. But I'd never run more than 75 kilometers in an event, and but I figured it out, and I thought I could run 200 and set my mind on that, and off I went. But yeah, so.
And what did you get?
I ran 201, I think it was. Awesome. I was falling off the two. I think 192, I seem to recall, was the record at the time. And that would have been an age group record for whatever age I was then. And I was falling off the pace then to hit the 200, but it was a shocking year that year at Sri Chamoy. Everyone fell off. I remember partway through, like Mick Francis and all these other like legends were there. And I remember like 8 hours in or something, Rolf, my partner, saying to me something like, you're ahead of Mick now, or you're leading the race. And I was like, whoa, okay, I've screwed this up then. I've screwed up my pacing. I've stolen, like, I should not be leading this race. But it was just a shocking year, and just where so many people had problems. I think it was definitely a cold night, which was fine with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so that really, I think, affected a lot of people. And then, I think there were just lots of, so somebody had terrible blisters and somebody else had gastro. I remember people like puking off to the side of the track and stuff, going, wow, I've never seen things like this before. Is that normal? Because I'm not going to puke. I'm definitely not going to puke. So yeah, it was just different things for different people. Actually, I remember a guy getting taken to hospital. I remember this ambulance car came, and Skin and Bones, Sullivan. Why is his first name? He just passed away last year.
Oh,
His full running name was Skin and Bones.
oh, no, I don't know.
Oh gosh. Um, Wonderful person. Anyway, he went away in an ambulance, and I remember in my head thinking, why can't I go away in an ambulance? And then thinking, that's a wrong attitude.
Good
It's like,
excuse to be
why
an
can't I get bitten by a snake and have this be over? But yeah, so anyway, the whole I mean, it was such a phenomenal experience too, because just everyone that was still in the day of, had manual lap scorers. So they
Wow.
had a whole row of the Sri Chamoy
Oh,
team
wow.
there, and you had your individual lap scorer who was there marking you. You were making eye
Oh, imagine having
contact
that
with
job.
them every time, and they changed every 3 or 4 hours to make sure that they would stay fresh
Yeah,
because it's such a monotonous kind of job, and they would get
that would
one or
be.
two athletes
Oh,
to
wow.
score for, and they always handed off, so you knew when your new lap scorer was coming
I
in,
was
and
going to say, how would you know? Who would you make eye contact with
yeah, you
once
you
they
you
change?
always knew who
Yeah,
your person was, and stayed in contact with them. And yeah, and because I guess too, yeah, I mean, it's kind of their MO at the Shri
yeah.
races. It's they're really lovely. And but yeah, that connection, and then just everybody, because I was going to be the only one to reach 200 kilometers as well in the whole event that year.
Wow.
And it was also the national championship that year, but I couldn't claim that because I wasn't Australian then.
Yeah.
And so everyone there just rallied around me, and that
That's awesome.
really helped push me to just
Yeah.
sort of stop slacking off and really find the strength to get back to the 200 goal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I did it. And yeah, so that was um that was the first experience with the 24-hour
Yeah.
track. And then just, I mean, over time, yeah, it's just always something different. Like, I mean, when I went to UTMB, I had never wanted to do UTMB.
Mm.
It was too big. It was too sort of, I
Commercialized.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, commercial, and yeah, big, loud. Like, that's really not my thing at all. I don't need that. I don't crave it. I don't
Yeah.
crave lots of noise and hoo-ha. Yeah, I've there's photographs from me in the Swiss Alpine race the first year I did it, and I'm going across a train trestle, and this train's going by with all these people hollering out, and
Oh,
I've got my fingers in my ears. It's
oh
like,
no.
nice. So, but over the years, that one just slowly wormed its way and into my brain, where I thought, I was just again looking for another challenge, and I
Yeah.
realized I had enough points actually to
Mm.
apply. It just happened to be the case that I had enough points. And I thought, well, of course I can't win it, given my age and my talent and my strengths and whatever. But what could I do
Yeah.
personally? What could I do as a 44-year-old or whatever I was then, woman? And then just looked at some other women who had finished it before and set myself a time goal that was a personal challenge. And then when I had that, I had my hook for that race.
Oh,
So
okay. And what was your time
yeah,
goal?
it was a sub 30 hour. And
Wow, that's awesome. And did you make it?
yeah, and I don't know, I'd have to pull up my DV. I think it was 29 something.
Oh,
It
perfect.
was seventh place,
Oh,
I think.
wow. That's
Yeah,
brilliant. I did not
yeah.
realize.
Yeah, well, I think it was seventh place there.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean,
And
and
with the
I
top
just
10 finish, you'd have gotten an entry into the following year too.
not at that point. And that
Ah,
was an interesting, because that was back when UTMB was only putting the top 5 women on the
ah,
stage. Hmm.
oh, mm,
Yeah. So I could go to races like Matterhorn All Tracks, and they were putting the top 10 on.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, UTMB, and that's, that was right around the time too that Ruth Croft was winning, and she boycotted the race.
Oh, good
It
on
was
her.
just an amazing thing to, and yeah, I definitely made it known um about my disappointment with that. And I think it was actually maybe even the year after that that
Yeah,
they
right
actually
away.
started
Yeah,
because they were putting the top 10 men on, but
yeah, of
only the
course.
top
Yeah,
5 women.
yeah,
And yeah, there were a lot of us voicing. I really wanted to go find those other 4 women who were in those other fall, and I was almost the point where I just wanted to march the stage in a quiet way, but just like when they put those 5 women up, to just go in behind.
that would
And
have been awesome.
even
Yeah.
actually at I seem to recall, well, Swiss Alpine, I was third. The second time I went to that race, I was
Mm.
third. And but I seem to recall in the photos from that race, I think we had a group of 10 women in there. I remember
Yeah.
like Andrea Hooser and a bunch of, Denise Zimmerman,
Yeah.
like a lot of just an amazing crew. But I remember there's a photo of a big group of us. So yeah, I think they were doing it too, even before UTMB was doing it.
Isn't
Mm.
it interesting? Because I kind of thought UTMB was kind of the leader with all that sort of stuff and the main.
Mm. No, they came in, I think, and I mean no disrespect to them, but I do think they came in a bit kicking and screaming sort of
How
about it.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
What a strange thing.
Yeah.
So,
Really focused on the times and the
yeah,
quality, the depth of the field was
yeah.
their argument. There
Okay,
wasn't the depth, and we were trying to say, yeah, but we need to encourage
that's right. You
more
want
women to
diversity.
have a go to
Yeah,
improve the depth of the field.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, well, at least now they do, I suppose. So, what year did you say that was?
I don't think I did say.
Mm. So what year was it?
Gosh, would that have been 5 years ago? Maybe I
Oh, is
did
that all?
UTMB.
Oh my golly.
Maybe
Yeah,
5 or 6 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah, the trophies are all in a packing box somewhere.
Yes,
They'll
you've
maybe
got
get.
your very blank bookshelf with
Yes.
not even one book on it or one.
Which literally just got moved into this room like 20 minutes before this
Yeah.
podcast.
Hence, she's not going for the minimalist look as we discussed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more just
Yes, yeah. It would be really, yeah. I don't know, maybe magnanimous of me or something to say, oh yes, I just give away all my trophies
that's
afterwards. They're meaningless to me. I let my dog chew on them or something. But I do try to keep them very restricted to one area. So they do tend to pile on top of
because
each
you
other.
have
So
a lot.
I, I I do. Which is a wonderful, like I just, yeah, that to look at that, and I do try to keep them sort of, yeah, on one
Yeah,
table, like not getting it out of, like I don't need everything sort of
yeah,
all, like sort of, I'm happy to have it sort of jammed all together. And it's amazing memories. And I've
yeah,
kept my bibs from events too, and I'll have
really.
them in a pile, and then I'll
Mm.
just pull, just sort of rotate them and like pull a couple other
Wow.
bibs to the front every once in a while, so I can just look and remember, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
race, oh yeah.
See, I threw out all my bibs.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't.
even threw out half my medals.
Yeah, do you, are you still good with that, or do you regret it?
Yeah, no, I'm good with it. I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I've got my main
everybody's.
trophies, but I thought I can't keep everything.
Yeah. So my medals just literally sit in a big heap,
Yeah.
so all the strings are out,
Yeah.
like the ribbons are out, and they're all in a, yeah, quite a big heap. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then I do the same thing. I'll just sort of pull a few out in front every once in a while and then remember some other little race. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
now you're making me feel a bit, oh.
But it's
That's the way it
if
is.
you've got photos or something, then you've got
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Some of them.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all those races, and you've done a lot, what has been your favorite race so far?
Oh. Oh
It's like,
gosh.
how do you choose a favorite? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Good thing I don't have children. I've never
Yeah.
had to, to address that question.
Yeah.
Um, oh, hmm. I don't, yeah, I don't
Don't
even,
know. All right. What
I
about
don't,
your least favorite? What was your least favorite?
because this is my most favorite in some ways. UTMB was a favorite race. I don't know that I'd say
Oh,
my most favorite because I would never, because again, like the crowds, and
yeah.
I would just get running in the night. I would be somewhere just running along in the peace of the night and going up some valley or something. It would just be wonderful in the full moon. And it's like, yeah, and I'm still working really hard, and I'm very focused and everything. But I'd come around a bend and then there'd be a chalet
Yeah.
with 20 people outside somebody's chalet, and they've got all their friends together for the event, and they'd have the cowbells going and their champagne outside or whatever. And they would be like, wow, yeah,
Oh,
allez, allez, or hop, 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 or whatever, and which so many people they love that. But for
yeah.
me, I would just be like sensory overload,
Mm.
overwhelm. So that was a real drawback
Mm.
for me with a race, but I knew that going into it, there would be that kind of thing. But with UTMB, I knew that downhills, that was another part of the challenge for me, is downhills are one of my weaker points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
You
so
need to be good at them. Yeah.
I knew when I was going into that race was like, okay, you got to really train your downhills. You got to up your game, girl, on your downhills, or those girls are going to be passing you all over the place.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I still got nailed by one girl coming down a really long descent.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I was really pleased with myself, really proud of myself for figuring out what I needed to do in advance, where my weak spots would be, really training to those, even though that meant, the training was tougher in some ways. I was getting out of my comfort zone, and then seeing it pay off, how I was really able to hold my own. And coming into that finish in Chamonix is just downhill for like
Mm.
8 or 9 kilometers
Yeah.
with, 100 miles in your legs. Well, I think
Yeah.
they'd increase the race that year. They'd add another 10 kilometers or
Oh,
something to it.
nice.
And
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, so being able to hold that and just kept, telling myself in my head, you are not going to get past. You work too hard at this point. You are not going to
Yeah.
let some chick come past you now.
Wow.
No way. And
Yeah.
so,
Wow.
yeah, that race was one of my, my highlights that way. Yeah.
And so, which has been the longest distance or time that you have raced? What has been that?
Uh, I think it would have to be the 300-mile Arctic one.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I did the FKT on the Bibbleman track,
Yeah.
which took like 15 days. But of course, that's an FKT. It's a bit different with more
Yeah.
stopping
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different. But
How long is
yeah,
the track for those listeners who don't know?
it's 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
And I forget, but I think it's about 20,000 meters
Yeah.
altogether in
Yeah.
vert. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
isn't too much when you consider the distance, really.
No, it's got some really, really hilly sections. And then so the the north end has lots of vert, and then when in the south is all the soft sand. That's the stuff
Ah,
that Sean Kessler runs his
okay.
um which
Yeah.
is the name that's just escaped me.
The
The
Delirious West?
yes, the Delirious. Yes, so he runs that one on the south section,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that one's really low hills for the most
Yeah.
part in comparison, but it's very insidious. The
Oh,
sand and
I
just
can
the
imagine.
dunes that is just like
Do
up,
not
down,
like
up, down.
sand.
Have you been to that one?
Nah, I don't like sand.
I like sand. Some people like sand.
Some
Yeah.
people do like sand,
Yeah.
but I do
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
sand. It's just so
I
frustrating.
try to tell myself that, yeah, because I think it's not helpful to say I don't like
No,
it, but I'm not very efficient on sand.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It really does take away efficiency for sure. So
Yeah.
how long? So the Arctic Ultra. So that
Mm.
was 300 miles. Did you say?
Yeah, 500K. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Hmm.
had to pull a pulk for that one?
Yeah, yeah. So that one, yeah, I was sort of reminiscing a little bit, I guess, listening to your podcast on your recent FKT.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing, amazing work. And, when I hear things like that, I'll get a little pit in my stomach because I remember things from some of those
Yeah.
challenges I've done. But when you talked about your tongue swelling up and
Yeah.
stuff, oh boy, yeah, I had
That
some
happened to
experiences
you.
with it. So that one with that, the Yukon Arctic Ultra, it's largely self-supported,
Yeah,
yes. And so because it's in the middle of winter, 500 kilometers, and there were only, oh gosh, was it 3 or 4 aid stations in the
seriously?
entire thing?
Oh my God.
So I was going like 18
Wow.
hours, 12 to 18 hours. And
Wow.
I was going fast. Like 2 men finished in front of me that year that I did that. But I think from memory, I would have come in right about like the course record overall was sort of in around the 5 day mark, or just,
Yeah.
5+ days for doing that event. And I was coming in. And so those 2 men that year, but I think from memory was sort of telling me that I would have been close to, if not like the
Mm,
fastest overall with my
yeah.
time. But then, we had a couple of really, really strong
Yeah.
men then. But yeah, so that was me. And I was going like 12 to 18 hours between. So all those people behind me were
Right.
going, what, 18 to 24 hours or
Oh
something
my God.
between sort of life bases. So so you have to pull a pulk behind you
Yeah.
with all the gear. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember
So
when you were prepping for it, I would see your posts how you're experimenting with things. So, your water didn't freeze as you're getting it and all that sort of stuff, all the challenges that you had just preparing for that environment.
yeah, and it's certainly trying to do that training in Australia was difficult. I was definitely getting onto the sand for,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some
That
of
too.
that,
Yeah.
to do some pulling through
Yeah.
of things through the sand, and just trying to get my shoulders and hips prepared
Mm,
for all the
yeah.
pulling that I was going to have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but trying to remember my skills in terms of like the winter stuff and being out there
Yeah.
all night, and
Yeah.
trying to refresh those skills, because it's the when it's minus 30 and you're trying to,
Oh,
like I said, it was really, they say, wow, ultra running's a eating and drinking competition or something, with a little running in between.
yeah.
Like, this was a dressing competition,
Ah,
really.
yeah.
It was all about layers on, layers off, layers on, layers off, because you couldn't over layer and get hot and start sweating, because then your clothes are soaked. As soon as your
Yeah.
clothes are soaked, you're dead. Like,
Yeah. And so what
that's
did you
it.
do for breathing? Because you can't really breathe that colder air, but if you put something over your mouth, it gets moist, which means it freezes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So then, one of the best tips I ended up with so I did have a cold Avenger mask, so I had this whole big thing.
Ah,
But I found that what it would do is the moisture still has to come out the front, and
that's
then what
right.
it would do would be the moisture would come out the front and then would drip onto my jacket, and then my jacket would
Oh,
start to soak.
oh crap.
So I was like, well, this isn't a win.
No.
So one of the better methods was actually and then the mask is all right, like, for that time. But as soon as if I set it down, took it off, pulled
Yeah.
it off, anything, and then it froze, and then I had to put it back up on my face. Like, so if it's wet with moisture, it's okay. But if then I pull it down or anything, and then it would literally freeze, right?
Yeah.
So then I had to pull it back up. I could get frostbite from putting ice against my skin, sort of thing. So a buff tubey type thing actually worked
Yeah.
the best most of the time. And
Ah.
because you can put that over, and sort of every hour or something, you rotate it a quarter turn.
Yeah.
And then you breathe into that, and then you rotate it a
Ah.
quarter turn, and keep doing that until you have
Isn't that funny that it
soaked.
ends up being something quite simple?
Yeah. Yeah. After so many different
Yeah.
attempts at
Well,
different
I don't know.
things.
That just does, for me, that just does not sound like a lot of fun. Did you enjoy it? Or is that a silly question? Because it's not really about
Oh,
enjoyment, is it?
no, I I loved it in the serenity, the peace, the quiet, the
Yeah.
solitude, the sound of silence. Like, it was like the utter opposite to
Yeah.
UTMB, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it so much in that sense that I went back the next year to do a solo, and I wanted to try to do the full what is it, 1,000, what is the 1,000 kilometers, 1,000 miles? Yeah, it's 1,000 miles, isn't
Oh
it? The
my
dog
God.
sled race. I
Yes,
tried
yes,
to do the
yes.
full thing from Whitehorse,
Yeah.
Yukon, to Fairbanks, Alaska. But we had a lot of -40 spells then, and I just
Oh,
wouldn't risk being out there. It's just so dangerous, touching anything.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess just, but anyway, going back to just the race itself, like, certainly during that, I mean, in the 5 days, I slept less than 8 hours. So I was, yeah, beside the canker sores in my
Oh,
mouth. I heard you talk
yes.
about the
Yeah.
inability to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that, the painful
Oh,
lips, the
yeah.
pain in eating. 5 days, for 5 days afterwards, I think all I could do
Oh,
was sort of
wow.
spoon feed myself instant porridge. Like,
Oh, instant porridge becomes your best friend, doesn't it?
oh yeah, it was that and mashed bananas.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But for 5 days after, holy
Yeah,
moly.
it was 5 days. Yeah, with less than 8 hours sleep. So it was the first event I ever hallucinated in.
Oh,
It
okay.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty massive. But just, I ran into one of the guys on the course, because the last bit is out and back, and this
Yeah.
Irish bloke and I passed each other, and he hadn't met me to that point. He's like, "Oh, finally, I get to see this Bernadette. I kept hearing Bernadette's right behind you. Bernadette, who's this Bernadette?" But we just stood there in the dark because he was
Yeah.
on his way into the finish. I had to get to the
Yeah.
last life base and
Oh.
back. And for just, I think maybe it was only 3 minutes or something, I think we just uttered profanities, sort of like, "Oh my, like, can you believe this?" Like, about everything that had just been happening,
Yeah.
and just the insanity that we'd both just gone through, about,
Yeah.
like, I would literally sleepwalk. I would wake up because I'd drop a pole, and that would
Oh,
wake me up. And
oh, wow.
I was pulling along this road with a cliff at the side, but I would wake up because I'd drop a pole, and that would alert me to wake up again. It was just, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
definite. One of those things that's like really amazing to tell the stories
Yeah.
afterwards. And
It makes a great story, but it's not necessarily pleasant to experience it.
oh, yeah.
And so how, when you're talking about, only sleeping for 8 hours, how do you handle sleep deprivation?
Mm.
I always ask
Um,
this of everybody because I'm trying to get tips.
oh, you have some more goals, do you, in
Yeah,
mind?
yeah, always,
Involving sleep deprivation?
No diet, no diet.
uh, well, my experience, like, first learnings, I guess, goes way back to some adventure racing in Canada.
Yeah.
And I I had a client at the time who I was an accountant, I had a client at the time who was a sleep doctor actually,
Oh,
and I'd
okay.
asked him for a couple tips,
Yeah.
and everything I've read ever since too is really just backed up that there's no scientific way to train it.
No, I
Never
agree. Yeah.
seen any literature that ever has supported that yet to train sleep deprivation. So really, if you can sleep in 2 hour or 4 hour increments, that's often best,
Yeah.
because that's a natural circadian rhythm, is
Uh-huh.
a 2 hour or 4 hour. Like a 4 hour allows two of those, right?
Yeah.
Or the 20-minute cat nap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't let yourself fall into the deeper sleep.
Yeah.
And I used the 20-minute
Yeah.
one even quite a bit on things like in the Bibbleman, because
Okay.
sometimes I would be just, running along in the middle of the day. So I'd sleep generally
Yeah.
every night, of course, or try.
Yeah.
Mostly it was just the legs were
Like,
so
yes.
painful, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
forget sleep.
Yeah.
Anyways, but then I would just do the cat nap. I was just literally in the chair and say, just don't let me sleep,
Yeah.
more than 20 minutes kind of thing, and just do those little power naps.
Yeah. It's almost better
And
for the body just to keep moving, isn't it? And just short naps.
yeah, yeah. And even I mean, a mate of mine recently, I just heard he'd done an event, and like his first 24-hour attempt, and he said something about like laying down in the middle of the night for a while, and then when he got up, he was just so stiff,
Yes.
right? And that's what, like, I can be running in a 24-hour race, and I'm still running, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and running. I definitely, it's not sexy looking. I'm sure. I know that. I've seen enough people on the track at 23
Yeah.
hours in, when I'm standing to the side going, that's not a great, like,
Not the
looking
best form on the
gait
planet.
you've got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can still be running. But the
Yeah.
moment, but you stop, right? It's like,
Yeah.
so like, pick a race, any length, whatever, UTA, anything, and you stop, and then you just start stiffening up. Everything
And that's why I would have
stiffens.
thought like a 2 hour or 4 hour sleep would be horrible, wouldn't it? Really? Sounds good, but
Yeah,
it's horrible in reality.
yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, I've definitely found that, yeah, with some things, I'm depending on the pace. So I think, the pace that I want to try to go again when I get going. So
Yeah.
I had signed up for a 6-day race that I was supposed to do, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
which was going to be a massive challenge. But my attempt then would have been to do the 4 hours sleep each night.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and I reckoned it would be that it'll be
Yeah.
hard to get started, but I'll start by walking and then
Yeah.
slowly work into the run walk
And
for the
which
rest.
6 day was this?
That was the emu
Okay, so are you going to
in
do it this year?
No, I didn't sign up for it this year. I did sign up for the Eiger Ultra. Normally,
Oh,
I'm in Europe for the
yeah.
Australian winters, but we haven't committed to that right
Yeah.
now. It's been hard not going back to see
No.
family as well,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
are
That would be
overseas.
horrible.
Another,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
given the uncertainties that are particularly around getting back
Yes, that's the
to,
uncertainty mainly, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that
So
we'd
will
really
you get
be.
your shots?
uh, I don't want AstraZeneca, to
No,
be
neither do I. No.
honest. I don't. I mean, if I look at where the science is right now on it, and yeah, because I am in my early 50s now, so that's what's being offered. If I was in
Yeah.
Canada, hey,
Oh,
I
they're
could have
giving the Pfizer in
Pfizer.
Canada. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bugger.
yeah. They put their eggs in more than one basket.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the science right now is saying, if I had a lot of pre-existing health conditions, I would be better off to get the AstraZeneca, because I
Ah,
would have a higher risk of an adverse effect from actually contracting COVID,
Oh,
or if I had a pre-existing
yes,
condition,
yes,
or
yes.
but the other thing is that AstraZeneca, right now, I mean, just going off on a whole different
Yeah,
tangent,
tangent,
is
yeah.
people who are really healthy actually, I mean, we clot.
Yes,
It's the
yeah.
healthier people that tend to
Ah, okay.
clot. The unhealthy people don't clot. They get an immune response.
Okay.
They get a lesser immune response. We get an immune response. Us
Okay.
healthier people are getting an immune response, and then we're getting this clotting that's happening.
Yeah, yeah,
So people who are less healthy,
yeah.
they're probably not actually getting that much benefit maybe from the
Yeah,
shot
of course.
either.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I'm definitely happy to like let other people go in front of me in the queue.
Yeah, me too. That's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can wait. Yeah,
Yeah. My
yeah,
quality of life is really good right now.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, and but it's something that we have to consider if we want to be racing overseas. And but in saying that, like,
Mm.
how do you in Australia train for the maintenance of, say, UTMB or the IGA or whatever?
Mm-mm. And that's something else that, and I was in WA, right? Which everybody's
Oh,
like, they don't have
yeah,
any hills.
no,
But I did it. I
mm,
successfully
yeah,
trained in the hills, in the Perth Hills, and went to Swiss Alpine and got third place,
yeah.
So
So it's
the
possible.
year of UTM. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So you choose your places
yeah,
and your places to go. And I would always try to mimic if I could with a race. So
yeah,
I've learned that along the way too, is,
yeah,
for a race like that, if I know sort of the vert profile of a race, it's like if I need 10K and 750
yes,
meters gain over that 10K, sort of, if that's the average for that
yeah,
race,
yeah,
then try to mimic that in some
yeah,
of my key runs. So it might be that I'm doing some more hill repeats at an easy pace. So I might spend a whole long run,
yeah.
might have just been hill repeats in WA at an
Oh,
easy pace, not those
yes,
fast hill
not
repeats that we
sprinting
think of
them.
as,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
as a traditional sort of hill repeat kind
But
of,
just getting the
but
vert in.
but just to
Yeah,
get the vert in.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
and that's great for listeners to hear to that you can train for these mountainous races even if you live in a flat area. It just takes a
Yeah.
little bit of
Yeah.
creative thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And I never done it with stairs because I'm not a
Yeah.
believer in stairs. I don't
Oh,
think
why
it's
is
a
that?
natural, like if I had any other choice, if it was only stairs, then maybe, but um, I know I was at a UTA
Mm,
camp, or
mm.
they had a thing like, or before, it was a trail running conference, and Andy from mile 27,
Yeah,
was
Andy
that, yeah, we
Dubois.
had we had a
Mm.
bit of a, yeah, bit of a difference of opinion there on on that. He was okay with it, but I
Yeah,
no, I think it's as a repetitive thing, I think it's very unnatural. So if I was
yeah,
maybe
yeah, true.
training for the Empire State climb or something, maybe I need to train my
Yeah,
hips and train my musculoskeletal, but it's so repetitive in exactly the same way. Like even when you're doing a hill rep, that hill's got different gradients,
yes,
right? So you're
true.
steep, and then it's shallow for a bit, and then
Yeah,
it's like you've got, it's 5% and 2% and
yeah,
8%. And so you're varying up your gait and
mm,
your stride length and everything the whole time too, which I just think is so much more
yeah,
protective. So
yeah,
yeah, more, and
yeah.
it's more natural
That's an interesting
because
point. I hadn't thought of it that way. I like that thinking. Mind you, I used to in Calgary go and do the stairs in time,
I just gave,
sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I just gave a friend of mine heck on Strava for,
Oh, for doing the
she went
stairs?
to Nose Hill to do some stairs, and it's like, I disapprove.
Oh, that's funny.
Meanwhile, somebody else had said like, "Oh, way to go" or something, and I'm like, "Oh, poor her. She's got the same problem I used to have
Conflicting.
with the
Yeah.
mates and their advice."
Yeah. So now earlier you sort of said something about retirement. Do you think you would ever really retire from running? I'm shaking my
Well,
head as I say this, assuming
yeah.
you no.
During every race, I think about 3 hours
Yes.
in, I retire 20 times.
Yes, I know. It's like, I'm never doing this again. Why do I keep doing
Why
this?
do I do this? This is such a stupid idea. Why would
Yeah.
I do this?
Why did this
Yeah,
ever seem smart? Yeah.
running is so much fun. Yeah, the training is just like so much fun, and it's just
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So I do tend to struggle a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
in that point that early,
Would
and I
you
think
still be inclined to run or train if you didn't have a race?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, is definitely a lifestyle for
Yeah.
me. It's a way of being. It's mental health. It's
Yeah.
how I know everything's right in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really good for me. And yeah, although yeah, definitely the retiring thing comes into my head every once in a while.
Yeah.
I think as long as I can keep finding challenges, and the other thing is I feel greatly challenged by
Okay.
my work training balance.
Yeah.
And so now too, and I love my work, but
What
now
are you
as
doing for
well,
work?
I'm a child psychologist.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So now having just moved interstate too and building a clientele, like there's more involved right now
Yeah.
in getting my, just sort of getting involved with new families
And
here, and it
probably good timing with the lack of racing sort of going on around the world.
yeah, yeah. But there's definitely some races here and now too.
Mm,
Like I've got
mm.
my eyes on some W50
Ah,
age group goals,
share
and
to
so the 24
care to share?
24 hour. Yeah, yeah.
Would you
Yeah,
be
doing
willing to share?
24 hour.
Yeah. And
Um,
what age? So W50, and what is
yeah, so
the record for that?
oh gosh. Um, okay, so I've been focused a little bit more on that 100K W50. So
Oh,
Tia Jones has for the
yeah,
Australian records, Tia Jones has
yeah,
set the bar. I was just at was I at Canberra with
yeah.
her, and she's in the W55 now, and she just had
Oh,
a
is she? Wow.
amazing day
Yeah,
there, and it was really good seeing her having hitting some age group records in
yeah,
for the W55 in the 12-hour race. And so I was there to have a crack at the 100K, and I've been trying to do that since, like, looking for the opportunity since I've turned 50.
yeah,
But between COVID and between my proclivity to going overseas,
yeah,
always during Australian winter, right? And then I go do
yeah,
these mountainous things in Europe and
yeah,
Canada, and that's amazing. But I'm always trying to race
yeah,
for records in the heat in
yeah.
Australia. It's
Which is really
stupid.
hard. Yeah,
I'm putting my thumbs in too many pies all the time.
but that's good. That's what makes life interesting.
Yeah, but I definitely don't set myself up well
Yeah.
for trying to have the best crack at records, especially when I have people like Tia Jones who've set the bar like
What was her
really.
record?
So, well, her 100K W50 is 8 hours, 33 minutes and something
Wow.
seconds. And so when I
Wow.
was at Canberra this last time, it was just way too hot. By 45 minutes in, we had the sponges going on me. I'm
Um,
trying to run a sub 5 minute pace, and it
yeah,
was
no.
just the heat reflecting on the try. I was like, oh, okay, this is not going well.
Yeah.
So I was going to end up with something like an 8 hour 40, the way the predictions were going. I pulled out I missed her 50-mile record by 12 seconds.
Oh,
But
oh,
I knew,
that's
like, it was
harsh.
just, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's part of the game. It's part of the challenge, and
Yeah, that's
um,
it.
so
Yeah.
there's that. And then the 24-hour Canadian record for W50 is something like 100 and I think 192K or something.
Okay.
But Tia Jones has got the Australian W50, think she ran that at one of the world championships, 218
Oh,
kilometers, I think,
wow.
something like that.
That's
So
awesome. Mm,
yeah, so that's the number to beat there.
yeah. Holy moly.
Yeah, so I definitely have some of those goals, and since I'm aiming to stay here now through the winter,
Yeah.
I think through the
Yeah.
Australian winter, that
You can give
it's
that a
really the
crack.
time to, yeah, to have a look at
So
these Australian
which
events.
one are you going to go to Stephen's race to try that?
Um, no, because I did look at that one. I love the Shri events. I saw that he'd taken over that one,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's that's great. But when I looked at the number of people there, he's got
Uh,
over 50
yeah,
people
and you need
in the
less.
24 hour. It's
Yeah.
just it's a full
Too
track.
crowded. Yeah, yeah.
And even in the when I went for the 100K, I had, and I knew what I had. I had the 48, but I had the 48-hour people I had to,
Yeah.
go around and stuff, and who are all tired, of course, and they're doing their best, but they're
Yeah.
sort of like here, there, and
Anything
everywhere. They're
everywhere.
I'm like, and I told myself, it's like, well, it's good. It's like I vary up my gait by going around them instead of being monotonous, but
Yeah.
sort of jumping into the infield at
Oh
some point, and then
God. Yeah,
like
no.
when somebody veers to the side, or it's
So
not
which one are you
ideal.
planning on trying run?
Matt Eckford's Invitational, 24-hour
Which one's that?
Invitational. Matt Eckford's Australian 24-hour
Yeah.
Invitational.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's invited me to that one a few times, and well, maybe last year, I guess. I don't know if that was his first year or the year
Yeah, I
before,
think
but
it
I'm
ended up
always like,
being virtual a bit, that one as well last year.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. So then the
Yeah.
year before, he must have
Yeah.
invited, yeah, but then it's always the Europe
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, this
Well,
year,
this is a good opportunity. So yeah,
yeah, and
that'll
I
be
mean,
great.
yeah, and he keeps the field he keeps the field really small.
Yeah, that's good.
And yeah, and July in Canberra, it really actually should be cold.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to worry
Yeah.
too much about heat then.
It's horrific for crew. I really
Yeah,
feel
yes.
bad for crew.
Probably the
Like,
worst for crew. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. When and it's funny because they're all in their puffies and
Yeah.
everything, right? And they're jumping from spot to spot and everything, and I'm in a t-shirt, like spinning around
Yeah.
the track.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, what we'll do, so that's July in Canberra. I'll get the
Yeah.
links for that, and so people can have a look and see follow on, and maybe we can have a chat after that when you've got the record. How does that sound?
Yeah, when, yeah. And we'll
Yeah,
find out which
when?
record I run for, because I am still debating whether I have a crack again at the 100K right now, or
Ah,
just do the 24-hour, because Matt's happy for me to,
do either.
pick whichever,
Can you do both?
whatever goal I want.
Yeah.
And so, because there is the 50 mile, the 100K,
Oh
and the,
wow.
the 24-hour that are all in there.
Yeah.
And I can't be greedy, and I just
Right.
have to choose my goal and
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
for that, and honor and respect that challenge, and not
Yeah.
think I can try to do, you know. So
Everything. Yeah.
yeah, I'll see.
Oh, well,
And I
that'll
did.
be interesting to see. So, if people want to follow you on social media or something, how can they do that? Do you do
Mm,
much on socials these days?
I'm rotten with it, and my poor long-suffering sponsors. I should. No, it's I'm not good at Did I say I'm not good at spruiking myself, or
Yeah, no, that's
um
fair. Yeah,
yeah, well, I don't like to put my pigeonhole myself about saying, I'm not good at it, but
yeah,
I really feel like I have to be authentic
yeah,
in everything I do, and I've not accepted some sponsorships in the
yeah.
past because I
That's
just
good.
felt like
Yeah,
it wasn't an authentic relationship, or I was going to have to give something, with a shoe
yeah,
sponsor. It's like, you
yeah,
can only wear this shoe. And it's like, yeah, but unfortunately you don't have great trail shoes. And it's like,
yeah.
yeah, okay, I'm not going to compromise.
No,
And
no, no. I think that's
so
good.
I love who I am, who I am affiliated with, but yeah, in terms of sort of posting all the time and things. I'm definitely not great. So I tend to put almost every run on Strava now,
Oh, well, there you
which
go.
I've gotten into a good habit of doing, but then I don't on share it to
Yeah.
Facebook, which
Well, if people just,
maybe would be a
yeah,
helpful thing. And yeah, and I kind of I've tried looking before at like the Instagram story and Facebook story, and I just spent a good couple days like trying to wrap my head around it, and it's like, that's not an authentic Bernadette. That's just not the way Bernadettes
yeah. No,
work.
and you know, and that's fair enough. But people can look you up on any of those, on Strava or
Yeah.
Facebook
So
or
I
Instagram.
am on Facebook. I am on Insta.
Yeah,
I like both
yeah.
platforms. I'm just not great about
You're not a prolific poster, and that's fine.
posting.
Yeah,
And if I felt there was more value in it for people, I guess it
yeah,
would definitely inspire me to do it, because I'm definitely passionate about helping people and stuff. But
yeah,
just saying, hey, look at me, I'm so great or something,
yeah,
it's not. But if there's value in me helping people, which is why
yeah,
I guess even like a podcast like
yeah,
this, if I
yeah.
can, as I
Well, it might
help
people
other
might want
people
to
somehow in their
yeah,
journey.
and they might want to ask you a question about some races that they're hoping to do in the next 100 years when we're allowed to travel again. So you know,
Yeah.
whenever that may be. So
Yeah, finding their own personal
yeah, or just
challenge or
finding a personal
something too.
challenge. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, especially because you have just been moving furniture and buying furniture and trying to get organized. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing and having more opportunities for people to get information from
Yeah,
the
and
community, share and learn, and
that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And I look forward to chatting with you in after the race in July, and we can dissect that one too.
And if that happens, maybe you'll see some things
That's
on the
right.
shelf.
I expect to see full shelves.
I thought about running and grabbing like a stuffy or something to my profile.
But then that might have looked a bit odd, just this one stuffy sitting there just looking at us, watching.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thanks so much.
Been
I
a
really
delight.
appreciate it. All right. I'll speak to you later.
Okay.
Bye.